And we're back with some more Rimworld and a little bit of testing here on armor. Did you ever have one of those days? Oh my god, are you kidding me? Because of situations like that, I decided to do a little bit of testing to see what would work against charge lancers. So what we have here is a bunch of volunteers lined up against the wall, about 100 of them actually. And then right opposite them we have a bunch of 100 lancers all lined up against the wall. This took a little bit of doing, but once we line them all up, you get 100 shots, well 98, then we get 2 more. They're slightly out of sync, don't ask. And then we get to figure out how many people died, where they got shot, how many points they got hit at. It's a little bit annoying, you have to sort of go through here and pick them out, but we've already got that completed. This here is all of the different anatomy of a pawn inside Rimworld. Just the main things to take away are some things have other things inside them. For example, the leg here has a femur and a tibia inside it. So you can shoot the leg and damage it, but the shot might also pierce through and hit either the femur or the tibia as well. It's unlikely, but usually you just damage the leg. However, the torso is a little bit of an exception. The torso has a clavicle, a sternum, ribs, a spine, a pelvis, a stomach, 2 kidneys, a liver, a heart, and a couple of lungs. Meaning if you hit the torso, there's a very good chance you're going to hit something else when you do it. It's sort of like a piñata. You hit one piece, you're probably going to hit something on the inside. The skull is also slightly different. Again, it's more like a Mr. Potato Head. You shoot the skull, you're actually just going to damage the skull straight up and maybe the brain inside. However, the ears, the eyes, the nose, and the jaw are sort of like just stuck on the outside. If you shoot the eye, it's not going to go through the eye and hurt the skull. Same with the nose, the jaw, and the ear. You either hit one or the other. You either hit the skull or one of the bits stuck to it. Here is a pretty horrible graph of how it all shook out in the end. About 40% of every hit you take is going to go towards the torso. 26% are going to go towards the legs, 11.6% for the arms, 9% for the shoulders. Head comes in at 7.3%. However, we'll get more into the data on that in a bit, but then hands and feet come in really low down and then fingers are tiny. Now bear in mind this isn't the largest sample size in the world, but assuming your pawn is completely without clothing, then this is what you can expect to look at. And there's a lot more data to delve into here that's... For example, the torso, 93% of the hits, of course, or 93% of the hits got it, and that's 39.9% of the entire hits. However, of those hits, 6 of the hits went through the torso and also damaged the ribcage, meaning they did double damage. 5 of them destroyed a right lung, 5 of them destroyed a left lung, 6 stomachs, 2 kidneys, 4 sternums, also 11 pelvises and 7 spines were destroyed. You got to remember that this was all just from the torso shots hitting. These are additional damages on top of the stuff you take to the torso. Every single shot did exactly 30 points of damage. There was no damage mitigation possible. If a shot hit, it did 30 damage. Whether or not it pierced through and actually damaged something else was just a matter of where it hit. For example, there's a jaw that got hit, but this is one of the quirks of the game. If you have the possibility to do, say, 30 points of damage, and the body part you're trying to destroy has 20 points of hit points, there is a chance the game rolls to actually reduce the damage so that you don't destroy the item, instead you reduce it to 1 hit point. If you do 11 points of damage more, there's no possibility of that anymore. But this does mean that any organs or things that have 20 hit points have the possibility of surviving a direct hit from a charge lance. It's why you can find ones here where you have the left leg shut off, but then you'll find someone else a little bit later whose arm is completely intact and they only took 28.9 points of damage as opposed to the full 30. The big takeaways from dealing with your pawns with no actual protection getting shot at is: a lancer at maximum range, which is their preferred shooting distance, they like to stay out there, has about a 23.5% chance of hitting you. 23.5% chance you will get shot. And if you get shot, you have an 8% chance that you're going to die. Your pawn will die. 2 heart were destroyed. 6 heads were just completely destroyed. There was no brain destruction in this one, actually. 8 livers, for some reason, in this one. No idea why, but 8 livers got destroyed. And 3 necks. Necks are a bit special. A neck can not be destroyed but still kill the pawn. I've seen a bunch of necks that got knocked down to 24 out of 25 hit points, but the pawn was still dead. So even if the neck is destroyed, they die, or if the neck is reduced to 1 hit point, they die. All up, this means that if a lancer shoots at you, you have a 1.9% chance of that pawn just insta-dying, assuming it's during the day and there's no other mitigating circumstances like you're in cover, smoke, rain, dark. Well, actually, darkness doesn't affect it anymore. But yeah, so long as there's no other mitigating circumstances and you're out in the open with no armor, 1.9% chance you're just going to straight up die, which is pretty bad. 8% chance you're going to die if they just shoot you. As well as that, you've got, there's out of the 18 hits, there was 18 people who got incapacitated here. So not only do you have an 8% chance of dying, you have roughly an 8% chance of also having the pawn being completely incapacitated. 7 of them were from spine destructions. Their spines were just completely destroyed. That pawn would be useless forever after until you get him a bionic spine. Depending on how early in the game that is, that might not be a possibility. 11 pelvises were knocked down to 1 hit point, as in 24 points of damage were done to them. The pelvises were not destroyed, so they could potentially recover, but they were completely incapacitated from the moment they got shot. A couple of things to note up here. Necks are really more a part of the torso than they are of the head. They're sort of their own separate thing, but they're protected by the body armor. So body armor protects the necks, so really there was 6 headshots that killed and all the rest were torso shots. 2 to the heart, 8 to the liver, and 3 to the neck. There was also for some reason 3 ear shots and 2 eye shots, which really skewed the amount of headshots that went in quite high. But the takeaway from this is the head is actually less important to protect than the body. Now, I know that sounds crazy, but if you'll check out the graphing here, most of the shots are going to hit the torso. In fact, an enormous amount are going to hit the torso, and the torso will result in more deaths than the head. That's assuming, of course, this is a charge lance we're dealing with, which is all we're really concerned about. We'll go into a little bit more theory crafting for lighter weapons later on. But the general takeaway is invest heavily in body armor. It's more likely to cause way more damage, and because of the shoot through and all of the organs contained within and the annoying problems they can cause, you're much better off investing heavily in torso protection above head protection. Next up, we did some testing with stuff you could acquire fairly reasonably early on in the game, namely heavy fur. Heavy fur you can get by killing mega slots and taking their fur and turning it into dusters. Now you may be wondering, why would you turn it into a duster when there's lots of other things you could turn it into for, say, like a heavy fur parka? Well, parkas actually provide less sharp protection than a duster, which is why everyone has a tendency to prefer dusters. Also, jackets give the exact same sharp protection. However, you'll notice here torso, neck, left shoulder, left arm, right shoulder, right arm. However, it mentions nothing about the legs. If you'll check down here, you'll notice this actually does cover the left leg and the right leg. This is one of the reasons everyone uses dusters. They cover the left and right leg, and they provide the best sharp protection of all of the 3 coats you can choose from, as in the duster, the jacket, and the parka. So it provides more protection across more body parts and has the highest sharp protection. Well, it's tied with the jacket, but covers more areas. It just makes it a far superior form of protection. We also have to bring up the Flak Jacket. The Flak Jacket can be produced, and it's not terrible. Look at the sharp protection, that 52%, as opposed to the heavy fur, which only gives 48.4. However, this requires more tech, and it actually becomes obsolete very quickly, and it also comes with a movement penalty. It reduces your movement speed by 0.12. We'll get more into that a little bit later, but how did the testing go with using excellent heavy fur dusters, excellent alpaca pants, and excellent wool button-down shirts? Yeah, I'm not even going to bother with the data. It was almost absolutely zero difference. The reason being the weapons they wield over here have really good armor penetration. Their armor penetrations on these things is 45%, which means it's pretty much instantly negated all of the armor on this. The armor on this for sharp protection is 48, meaning you only give about 3.4%. I did notice the odd damage mitigation, but realistically it's not anything special. We'll cover more on that in a bit, but let's try something a little bit tougher. Say hello to your standard flak trooper. Flak vest, excellent. Devil strand duster, excellent. Alpaca wool button-down shirt and pants, excellent. And 1 plasteel flak helmet, excellent. A couple of things to note. The reason I'm testing only excellent equipment and nothing better. When it comes to crafting, someone who hits about level 18 to 19 in a crafting has about a 50% chance of producing an excellent quality item, or slightly better. Chance of getting masterwork, about 6 or 7%, so I don't really consider it realistic to equip everyone in masterwork equipment. For that reason, for the realistic testing we do early on, we're just going to stick with excellent quality for everything. Now, how did these all work out when it came down to getting shot at by a bunch of lancers? Nope, there's a death. Well, let's go have a look at the numbers. Just one quick look here to see the major difference. Torso damage has dropped to 31%, as in it used to be 39% of the hits were all on the torso, but now they've dropped to 31%. Now, I only did about 500 rounds of shooting on this one just to get the numbers. It all pretty much worked out at that point. The reason, though, for this reduction in torso hits is to do with the way armor calculations are done. This is armor sharp, 130%. This is what most projectile weaponry has. I think all projectile weaponry only, except for maybe grenades or explosive type weapons. Now this explains how armor rating works, and it's actually pretty simple. First thing you do is you grab whatever your armor rating is and you subtract whatever the armor penetration of the weapon is. In this case it's 45%. That's going to leave you with 85% armor. Easier if I just write this down. Trying to explain it would turn out to be difficult otherwise. So 130% armor minus 45% penetration, remaining armor value is 85%. Then the attacking weapon does a random roll between 0 to 100. If it's 0 to 42, it's a deflect. 43 to 85, it's half damage. 85 to 100, it's full damage. The reason being, if the random roll is half the armor value, half your remaining armor, it does no damage. It just harmlessly deflects off. If it's over half your remaining damage, or if it's over half your remaining armor, then it does half damage. However, if it's completely over your remaining armor, as in you have a remaining armor of 85% and it gets 85 or higher, well, then you take full damage. Actually, I'm a little bit vague on the actual borderlines there, so if it's 85 or 86 you have to get above, it's not really a big deal. But what this tells us anyway, is if you have 145% armor, a standard charge lance tries to shoot at you, you'll still have 100% armor remaining, which means half the shots will completely deflect harmlessly and the other half of the shots will only do half damage. And no shot will ever do full damage. Just an important little caveat to note on these things. That leads us to all of this lovely damage section over here. We only had 4 deaths across 500 shots. And how many hits? 95 hits. Only 4 of them resulted in fatalities. This is a massive, massive, massive improvement. I think, there was an 8% chance of dying previously if you had no armor whatsoever. But with this setup of just excellent flak equipment, your chances of dying is about 4.2% if you get shot. Almost half. You've almost halved your chances of insta-death if you get shot. It used to be about 1.9% chance you will just straight up die if they shoot at you. Now they've got about 1/5 the chance of killing you from a random shot. You've reduced your chances by about 1/5. In total, you've got 20% less chance of even getting shot because a bunch of the shots are getting deflected and not even hitting you in the first place. As well as that, you notice here the big killers were 2 to the heart, 1 to the head, brain. It basically went through the head and hit the brain. 1 to the neck. However, over here you'll see we have 1 liver bruise where the shot went through the armor, but then the damage was halved and didn't actually destroy the liver, so the liver was bruised. This would have been a death shot if it was not for the flak vest. Same with this neck bruise. The flak vest actually protects the neck. I know that doesn't seem very intuitive if you know anything about flak vests, but yeah, a flak vest actually protects the neck, left shoulder, right shoulder, and torso. The only thing it doesn't protect is the arms. So this neck bruise would have been a fatality if it wasn't for that flak vest. Also, there was only 1 incapacitation here. 1 in total. Last time there was something like 18. This is half the target size, so this would have been 2, let's say, if we did the full stretch. Basically, incapacitations almost completely disappeared. There was 3 bruised spines. If it wasn't for the armor, that would have been 3 more incapacitations. Also, when it comes to torso shots, there was... clavicles actually got damaged in this one. There was a bunch more bruises here. Big takeaway from this. Flak armor, flak vests, Devil Strand Duster, they do an absolutely wonderful job of protecting your pawns. They drastically reduce the chances of one-shot kills. They won't protect you perfectly from one-shot kills from lances, but they will definitely really increase the life expectancy of all of your pawns. Reduce a whole bunch of damage from being bleed damage to bruise. You look over here, I know this is a bit of a mess, but this here is the 30 damage hits, as in damage that destroyed a limb or did something along those lines. For example, over here we have 29 hits to the legs and 5 of them were destroyed, or 26 hits to the legs, 5 destroyed legs, 21 damaged. This is actually not that much unchanged from the last one because Devil Strand Dusters are not nearly as good as the Flak Vest. The Flak Vest is actually providing most of the protection here because of the torso. If we just do a quick search for torso here, you'll see a lot of highlighted torsos. Anything up here in the 30 damage section was ones that took the full brunt of the hit, and anything down here in this section is the ones that took 29 damage. As in the damage was mitigated. We even got one here that was double mitigated, as in the flak vest stopped the round, and then the bruise damage got mitigated by not the flak vest, the Devil Strand Duster stopped the round and actually halved the damage, and then that half damage got halved again passing through the flak vest. Now, if we compare that with, say, the run through where there was no protection at all, you'll notice that there's a lot more 30 damage here. There's, and incapacitated and also, I know this is a messy graphing system. I just threw this together. But you'll notice on the 29 damage sections, there is literally no torso damage. There's no torso damage here on the 29s because every single hit to the torso did the maximum damage because there was no protection. Definitely get yourself a good flak vest. This is where we're just going to point out why no one uses flak jackets. Now, you can wear a flak jacket on top of a flak vest and double up on your protection. However, if you notice here, sharp protection, 52%. Devil Strand Duster, sharp protection, 54.6%. So the Devil Strand Duster actually provides better protection. Also has better insulation, better heat resistance, better cold, everything. Also protects your legs, which the flak jacket does not, and does not reduce your movement speed like the flak jacket does. Flak jacket is a poor man's Devil Strand Duster. As well as that, if you get a Thrumble Fur Duster or a Hyperweave Duster, they're even better than the Devil Strand. So if any Thrumbles show up on your map, you best have a plan for harvesting them because you want their fur. It makes for excellent protection. Now it's time to get into the really good stuff, the Cataphract Armor. Like I said before, we're not going to go above excellent for reality testing. We'll do a little bit of legendary at the end just for fun, but if you check the armor protection here on Cataphract Armor, it's 156%. You need 145% if you want to completely have it, completely mitigate all chances of a Lancer getting full damage. If you check, say, an Excellent Marine Armor only goes up to 137.8. There's only, well, technically three types of armor that can hold up against a Lancer, and that is the Cataphract Phoenix Armor. It's slightly less protection, it's 149, but it's still above the 145 necessary. So you can have that built in Incendiary Launcher if you want. And also Prestige Cataphract Armor is effectively the exact same as normal Cataphract Armor. So there is quite good chances that you could build Cataphract Armor in the late game, assuming you have enough resources. Now let's test out and see how well it faces off against these charge lances. At this point we stopped delving too deeply into the numbers. It was just pulling out all the details on injured parts was pointless. Every single hit that did hit was mitigated, as in the damage was halved. However, there's a few things we should note. We received 100 hits out of 1,000 shots. So that's a 10% impact, as in compared to the Flak setup, there we took 19% hits. Here we're only taking 10. We've almost halved our hits again, as well as that there was only 2 actual fatalities from hard shots. At this point, we've hit pretty much the maximum you can, well, we haven't had to hit the maximum. We'll hit that later. But at this point, the only thing that can kill you is a shot to the heart or a shot to the brain. Anything else will be mitigated enough, and they're the only one-shots that can break you. However, your hand can still be shut off, your foot can still be shut off, you can also lose fingers, toes, kidneys, lungs. Those can all still be destroyed. It's just they won't kill you. Kidney and a lung are fine. Also, if you get hit in the liver, it won't destroy the liver, it'll just bruise it. What you're looking at here is every single one of these will be a bruise as well. Say hello to legendary Cataphract Armor with a legendary Cataphract helmet with some excellent alpaca wool pants and shirts. They have 200% sharp armor protection, both of them, the helmet and the body armor. So yeah, this provides an absolutely insane amount of protection. Before we go into the numbers, here's just the theory again. There's the 130% armor, the 145 to get the 50% deflect and all that. But here at 200% armor for legendary Cataphract, you're looking at basically you have a 77% chance that anything that hits you will automatically deflect. And you've only got a chance of about 22% that anything that hits you will do half damage. And nothing will ever do full damage. So only 22% of the shots that actually hit you will do damage. That's insane. So, for the legs with the shirt and all of that down, but we minused out the hands. I subtracted the hands from this, hands and feet, because there's just, you can't protect those. Body armor does not protect them. Nothing you can do. Well, we'll cover how you protect them later on, but that means 54 hits. Excluding the hands and feet, there was only 54 impacts. That was it. Next up, we're going to throw on some legendary hyperweave undergarments. These undies actually have decent sharp protection, and more importantly, they also have decent, well, not decent blunt protection. There's a bit of an argument on and off about whether or not having any decent undergarments provide any protection, because once the stuff gets through the Cataphract armor, if it gets through, it has to try and penetrate the stuff underneath it. Does this provide any benefit? So, all we did is we ran another 10 tests and we saw how many people ended up dead and how many hits happened. The result across 1,000 shots is there was 52 hits, as opposed to the 54 we got when we were just running without the legendary shirts. So if legendary hyperweave shirts, which are the best for any form of sharp or blunt protection, provide any bonuses, it's pretty minuscule. However, there was something fun we could try. This is to do with Bionics. Same legendary setup, but Pawn's got bionic arms and legs. Game treats Bionics a little bit strange. The reason being, can you imagine trying to repair a bionic finger? If your bionic finger got shut off, what would you do? Well, the game doesn't know either, so it doesn't bother. So here we have all of the shots that got taken on someone with the bionic arms and legs. No damage to the hands, feet, toes, or fingers. So long as you have bionic parts in place, you can't get them shot. It's like they don't exist, or they're protected by the armor, whatever way you want to think of it yourself. But once you have bionics in place, and you've got someone dolled up in very good armor, it's really hard for anyone to do any damage to them at all. Still possible to die to a heart death or a brain shot, though. There's no real avoiding that just yet. But there is one more trick up our sleeve. This is the most heavily armoured a pawn can get. It's the same legendary Cataphract and Hyperweave, but thrown in, we've got Stone-Skinned Land, which adds extra armour sharp and blunt to the actual skin of the pawn. This stuff is actually pretty awesome. I've seen it save an eyeball by mitigating the damage on an eye, which nothing else can really do properly. If we scroll across here, you'll notice there was only 37 hits. I I couldn't find any triple mitigation, but I did find double mitigation where the shots got mitigated by the Cataphract Armor, and then after they passed through the Cataphract Armor, they then hit one of the sub-layers, either the stone skin or the shirts, and their damage was halved again. So instead of taking 15 damage, they took 7, as opposed to the 30 they should have got from the original shot. So while shirts don't appear to do much, that stone skin absolutely does. That is a hell of an increase. So if you've got legendary Cataphract Armor and you really want to just go that extra mile, stone skin really does seem to do a little bit of help. In fact, it was so powerful, I went back and did a little bit of flak testing on the same flak loadout as before, but this time we added in stone skin. I don't want to get into too much detail on this, but after running 10 tests, we didn't go into all the details of what got hit and all that. We just logged deaths and hits. This is how many hits there was before, just on the normal flak trooper without stone skin. It was 19% of the shots at them hit. It's only 15.8% hit after the stone skin. As in, there's a lot more mitigation going on because, okay, that's only a small amount of a gain as opposed to what you get from the flak vest and the Devil's Strand Duster. But that little bit on top of it really does help, especially when it comes to deaths. The deaths went from 4.2% of the time you would die when you got hit to 2.53%. That's insane. To put that sort of in perspective, if you have excellent Cataphract Armor, you're going to have about a 1.8% chance of death if you're wearing full excellent Cataphract Armor. You can get not quite the same, but almost as good with a flak setup, assuming you put on, stone skin. Now, stone skin comes with a lot of negatives. It was a -2 beauty debuff to the pawn, so they're far more likely to be hated and all that. And it slows down their movement speed, so it definitely has some big drawbacks. But it actually has some quite good positives to it. I didn't think it was this good until I actually tested it, and it does work. It does actually provide quite a decent amount of protection. So far, we have only been testing this against charge lances. The original goal was to find out if you could mitigate the chances of getting shot to the heart or shot to the brain, but it turns out you can get Bon Jovi no matter what you do. Unfortunate. But the charge lance is an incredibly powerful weapon. It also has great armor penetration at 45%. What if you put it up, say, against something like a machine pistol, which only has about 9% armor penetration? That's the lowest of any weapon in the game. Because its armor penetration is so low, and its damage is only 6 points, which means even if you do hit someone with it, your chance of doing any damage is minuscule. Where are we got here? A crack. It did 2 damage. Oh, machine pistol, 8.4. Oh, you. Go kill that person. Stop hanging around, Neil. So as you can see, they can take quite a lot of shooting and just sort of ignore it. Yeah, these guys picked the wrong person to go mess with. Neo, come on. What's taking you so long? That guy should be dead already. So it's 2 down. They're literally just walking through hails of bullets and only taking scratches. It does make them kind of ridiculously OP. Okay, I probably shouldn't stop it here. I was going to wait until this guy was dead, but this guy's doing the full Monty Python. His left arm's gone, his right shoulder is gone, so he has to drop his weapon, and his right leg is gone. They literally are hopping on 1 foot. They've only got 1 foot left. I don't know how... Never mind, they're down. Oh, left leg stabbed. Oh my god, the leg's almost gone too. Okay, Neo, let's see what kind of damage you've got here. This is pretty much weak sauce. Most of the damage here was, well, let's just say the pistol bullets did very little damage. What did more damage than anything else was the people fighting back and clubbing people with the pistol. Guns wielded as a club, they sort of do blunt damage instead, which means they do an awful lot more damage that way. By and large, someone with this kind of armor can waltz through an awful lot, but that doesn't make them immortal. The legendary armor has been reduced to 51%. And it's taken so many hits, it has just been reduced to 51%. You can do that twice, and then it will literally disintegrate. Legendary helmet took a lot less damage. Like I said, most of the hits go for the torso. There are, of course, still a few questions that need answering. One thing that comes up frequently, but no one seems to have a definitive answer to, is when it comes to armor penetration. Well, not quite. Let me explain. When a shot goes through, say, and hits your armor, on the outside, your Cataphract armor, it gets converted into blunt damage, and then that blunt damage has to, say, pass through your stone skin. Does the armor penetration stay? As in the 45% armor penetration that this Lancer has on its weapon, is the blunt damage that has passed through your Cataphract armor still there? So does it still get 45% armor penetration? Or is the armor penetration halved as well and it's dropped from 45% to 22.5? My guess, because no one seems to know for sure, is when the damage changes to blunt, you get blunt armor penetration as well as that, but it also halves the armor penetration. This would sort of back up the testing almost. When it comes down to your gear, when we put on the hyperweave button-down shirts and hyperweave pants, they did almost no effect. We saw a drop in about 2 hits roughly, which could have been it's inside the margin of error. But with blunt armor, giving 19.4% protection and half of 45 being 22 point something percent, it would mean the blunt armor of this hyperweave would do almost nothing. However, the blunt armor of the stone skin would actually have about 8 percentage points worth of damage, extra damage protection. However, I'm still not sure that's enough. That still does not seem to account for the numbers. If you'll note here, we went from getting 55 hits out of every 1,000 shots to 37 when we installed the stone skin. That's a hell of a jump. I wonder if that was... You know what, let's just double check. After running 10 more tests, we've got slightly different results. This was 37, then we went up to 45. It's still about 25% better than what we were getting without stone skin. So stone skin is definitely giving a bit of a bonus. But when you're getting down to numbers this small and sample sizes this small, it gets a little bit weird. You can't quite queue up the data. I'd need to run thousands and tens of thousands of tests to be sure, and I'm not running that many. I have, a life, or I like to think I do. However, if any of you know the difference or exactly what the mechanics are, or you've read the code, or you know someone who has, please, if you've got the information, stick it in the comments. I'll add it into the description for anyone who's interested. I think the main takeaways from this is protect your torso. A good flak vest is amazingly powerful. It will save your butt more than anything else. As well as that, helmets, they're very important, but you're going to get shot in the head an awful lot less. Also, the amount of organs in your torso means, yep, definitely double down on protecting your torso. The best way to keep your pawns safe? Keep them in a lot of cover. The more cover they're in, the less likely they are to get shot. You can't ever protect them from... Oh, great, those things. I'm always curious if these things are affected by EMP. I haven't seen anyone test that yet. Those new shield deployment things, where are they? It's around here somewhere. Alright, we've equipped our person with EMP grenades. Let's see what happens. I'm going to see what happens if you actually try and fire the grenade. No. Whoa, it hit the shield and actually took it clean down. Okay, good to know. Shield will go down disarmed for 9 seconds. So EMP grenades do work on it. Okay. That would, well, there's been a lot of complaints that kill boxes get destroyed by those shields. Turns out, nope, you just throw an EMP grenade at it, knocks it offline for 9 seconds. Let's see what happens if we throw a second one. What the? Where are you going? Why? Yeah, disarm for 9 seconds again. It seems you can just keep throwing this. Keeps resetting the timer and won't let it come back up. And then when it eventually runs out of time, do these things self-destruct? Yeah, they disappear. Perfect. So at the end of our quest, I'm afraid we did not find a way to protect yourself from getting one-shot killed to the heart or head. There is literally no way to avoid that. Charged lances will always be the storyteller's tool. Unfortunate. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed and good luck. Did you wonder how we managed to get 100 lancers in here to actually do all the shooting? Well, your first thought might be you'd just go into spawn pawn, pick a mech lancer and then just start dropping them in until you have 100 of them. And that's exactly what we did at first. However, it turns out once you go beyond a certain amount of pawns, usually about 10 or so lancers, the rest of them just decide to go for a wander. They're hostile to you, they just don't seem to care. This is kind of an annoyance. They just wander around in circles, so you could only get about 10 of them to fight. Next goal. I'm thinking, well, how do I get this to work? I search for a bunch of mods for 5 minutes, and then I'm like, wait, I got this. Since you can't get the lancers by spawning them in, the simple second best method I could come up with was, instead you execute a raid, pick mechanoids, make it the maximum size, immediate attack, and have them edge walk in from the edge of the map. And this will give you a big cluster of mechs that will wander in, say like this crowd over here. Then once you've got them all wandering in, you let them spread out a bit so that you can pick out who you want to live and who you want to die. Then you go and grab yourself the destroy tool. Where is it? This one. And then you start destroying the things that are not lancers. And you keep doing this with raids until you eventually end up with 100 lancers in your numbers. Then, oh wait, enemies. Then once you've got 100 lancers, which it takes a little bit of time, you then start using this teleport function. And the teleport function is actually from one of the mods. The mod is called Character Editor, I believe. I'll stick it in the description. But if you press home on any unit, you can actually change all those things. You can change its inventory. You can even change the weapon on a lancer if you want. You can also give them health effects or take them away, do whatever you want. You can give an aesthetic nose to one of these. Aesthetic nose? Whatever. Makes no difference. But if you go to the record section, there's actually a teleport function, so you can teleport them around the place. And then what you do is you go around and you teleport the lancers in, and then you've got 100 aggressive lancers. This is why, when we hit the unpause button, you'll see that there's a whole bunch of shots, and then there's 2 more slightly out of sync. Those 2 shots that are out of sync is just because when we teleported they were slightly facing the wrong direction, or it was too late, or I think I had to let some more in. It was just a confusion along that split. That's why there's 2 out of sync. The storyteller we were using for this was Randy Random Losing His Fun. Where is it? Yeah, well, actually, on this one we changed it to custom. And we set it to, well, Randy Random losing is fun, but then we cranked up the threat scale to 500% so we could get in more Lancers at a time. But yeah, that's the way all the testing was done to ensure that you get the maximum amount of damage to the pawns, and it would work no matter what playstyle you tried.